Hildegard claims that her visions started when she was like 3 or 4 years old. It was only in my 3rd year when I saw a heavenly light that made my soul tremble, but because I was a child, I was afraid to speak out. She said, and this is incredibly unusual, she said that she retained her consciousness throughout, and unlike many medieval saints, she didn't levitate or go into a complete sort of lather of unconsciousness. And she didn't go into a dream state or indulge in ecstatic excesses such as levitating or passing out. She understood eventually that people didn't see as she did, because she would describe what she'd seen and really. But in an effort to conform, or maybe the fear of being different, she kept silent. Even though this strangulated self-suppression did actually make her ill, because it was such a pressure on her little brain that she would have to go to bed. A sort of migraine, I suppose. And today, I think she'd have been on medication and possibly in a mental home, because people would have been so alarmed at what was happening to her. And eventually, when she was, I think it's 38, it said, she began to speak of her visions because God, or what she saw, told her to. She basically told her to stop messing about and get on with it, with all this information she had, the vision she had, and that people would like to know. And she writes, this is what she heard, "O fragile human, say and write what you see and hear. By the will of him who knows, sees and disposes of all things from the secrets of his mysteries, speak therefore of these wonders, write them and speak." Heaven was opened, and a fiery light of exceeding brilliance came and permeated my whole brain and inflamed my whole heart and my whole breast, not like a burning, but like a warming flame, much as the sun warms anything to its touch. It was a study in compassion because of the blueness, because of the blue, and the blue was also used by the Vedic Vishnu as being a sacred colour. And it's a man, the most quiet of lights, and in it, burning with a flashing fire, is the form of a man in sapphire blue. And the experience while watching this image is of peace and power. The blue colour denotes compassion, and the hands of the blue man are extended in a manner of healing and assisting. And the energy field surrounds the man, and clearly this is a person whose body is in the soul. And notice too the aperture in the head, so healing energy can come peeking out. And he's surrounded by what looks like weaving or rope as an inner golden circle. And in such a practice, the cosmic web is being celebrated. For the next 10 years or so, she wrote and illustrated her first work, what came to be known as Scivias, which roughly translates as "know the ways." And there are thought to be about 35 illuminations that we have information enough about to have been copied at the time. I also want to demonstrate about how her books were made and who did the actual pictures, because although she wrote hundreds of letters and composed the music, including the first known opera, she worked out dietary issues, which you've been hearing about, and recipes for health and well-being, all while running 2 busy convents. And one of these activities which she did definitely have assistance was with her Illuminations. These exquisite images were basically detailed illustrations of her thoughts, because artistic images, pictures, on their own, without reference to a description, didn't exist at the time. So it's thought that she might have done some of them herself, and there is an image of her presumably taking notes on a wax tablet, which was used as the temporary, it's basically as a notebook. She had a little stylus, and a bit like a sort of Apple pencil and a thing, by her beloved secretary Volmar, who was a monk roughly of her, well, very similar in age to her, who had moved to her convent, and who was her secretary, her assistant, and her very, very good friend for about 40 years, actually. Because all monasteries and convents had a scriptorium, because writing, the various crafts associated with writing books, were considered acceptable activities, along with the music, writing, the making, weaving, making cloths, clothes, and the gardening, were considered as suitable activities for cloistered persons. But I think that the parchment or vellum must have been imported, because scraping newborn sheepskin can hardly have been a fun pastime. But the ink and colour would almost definitely have been done in-house. However, I will now show some of the illuminations. It is one of her most important, for me, and profound thoughts, preachings, of this idea that viriditas, or going green, was part of the Godhead, i.e. it was a link between the spiritual deity, the intellectual deity, that is, was largely the occupation of the established churches to prophesy and to talk about. But I'm sure all of us have gone through the countryside and been heart-struck by the spring grass and the spring trees and the views into the fields and so forth. That is viriditas. And she calls it greening refreshment. And humanity is showered with this. In other words, the ability to grow, revitalise, and then finally to bear fruit, i.e. in humans' case, to have children. And it also involves moisture, i.e. water, because without it, everything shrivels up and dies. And I do think that one of those reasons, one of the very big reasons why Hildegard attracts me so much, is it puts the concept of the divine feminine in its rightful place. Most sectarian churches were masculine dominated in this aspect. The term creation spirituality, which is much wider and less sectarian than what we're normally taught about. And this mandala, to the right, celebrates the deep psychological healing which occurs when the micro and macrocosm are wedded together. Circularity indicates wholeness. And the vision is aware that it is physically holistic, not just logically or linguistically. So the inspiration for trees, so if you can see it, I mean, it goes in from the outside, from space, flames all around the outside, and then weird little beings, angels and animals, breathing in through the sky and the sea, and then down to the seasons, with people doing what they do. They're growing, they're cultivating, they're cropping stuff, and then cooking it. And if you hadn't seen that in a vision, there would have been no way you could possibly have drawn it. At that time, 11 something, just after the Norman invasion, such things of doing a picture and then writing a commentary on it, or writing a commentary on it and then doing the picture, didn't really reoccur until the 20th century, in fact. This is one of the most profound and complicated of Hildegard's visions, and to be fair, I can't see it all completely clearly. You need to look at it practically with a magnifying glass. At the time, she saw the universe as a figure of an egg, which somebody said to me yesterday, doesn't it look a bit like a vagina? But it certainly is an image of femininity and of femaleness. And the universe, invisible and eternal things, are manifested, and the idea that the egg was a cosmic symbol can be found in most symbolic traditions, including Indian, Vedic, and in fact Druidic. Hildegard, in fact, started doing circles as she got older, but you cannot deny that this concept of the egg is a deeply female image. So a circle of bright flame, 3 torches at the top, 5 known planets are in there somewhere, Jupiter, Mars, Saturn, and then the Sun, and the gloomy fire full of storms, a layer of pure sky, and then the Earth, which you can just see, and then, in the middle, the centre of the egg, Is it a yoke? It's full of air and water, but it's the life force. I'm indeed quoting Hildegard herself and Matthew Fox, because the picture is extremely hard to decipher on its own.
Apart from blue, is there any other colour that you feel is of interest?
She uses red in very specific circumstances. She paints highly physicalized male forms, and actually quite satanic male forms, in red and black. And she uses that there. And the blue, obviously, for the sky, the sea, and compassion. And the green, we've heard about, is viridity.
Would that have been her invention of
the greenness, the viriditas, was certainly her invention. Experience. Where her angst-ridden silence, I can't quite work out what that thing in the middle is, but I mean, that's obviously her angst-ridden silence, is transformed into self-expression through speech and music. And it was a big deal for her to let go of her fear-filled terror of not being obedient, and to overcome her acceptance of male dominance, and which was so sanctified by the church as well as the social conditions of the time. I mean, like, we were on the train yesterday coming here, and I think there were only about half a dozen women in a very full train who were not wearing headscarves and head coverings, and that would have been the same. If you were a married woman or a sanctified woman or a nun, you covered your head. It was considered very dangerous not to. It's the image of the divine soul entering the baby while it is still in its mother's womb through an image of the quadratic deity rather than the Trinity. And the centre of the kite, they're little red balls. And I'm not going to... So basically it's saying... That's the chap. If that is the chap. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Basically, Hildegard is saying that the sun's energy, or energy from on high, gives life to everything on earth. And a cosmologist of today, Brian, swimmer, teaches that the original fireball, which created us, which was the start of the universe all those billions of years ago, is literally present in our brains today, causing growth and photosynthesis. It's what makes me cry, I think it's so extraordinary. It's what Hildegard described all those centuries ago as greening. And the four secondary images describe our daily struggles, both demonic and practical, ending up with a protective tent at the top, which keeps the nasty things out. Now, this is described, it looks very dull, but actually it's described by Hildegard as the communion of saints in cosmic symphony. And it is two of the main duties, as well as dimensions, of humanity to celebrate and to do works of wonder in praise. And in this illumination of Scivias, Hildegard pictures the communion of saints in heaven, the saints of the blessed ones, the happy ones who stirred God by sincere striving in just works. And they are enjoying themselves with unbounded delight in every manner of sweet blossoming, good aromas and sweet scents. Now in all this marvellousness they can enjoy the sweetest ecstasy. It says, be not lax in celebrating, be not lazy in the festive service. She says God, but with the universe. But be ablaze with enthusiasm. Let us be a live, burning offering to the world. And here is a very important thought. For Hildegard, and this is what she also says, there is no truer, deeper, or more cosmic way than celebrating with your deity as making music. And that would be a cue to start. So that's me finished chatting.